Hello and welcome to this YouTube video. This is the first video and also the introduction video of two big series I'm gonna launch soon. In the first series, that will start with this and the following videos, I will explain everything about C# for Unity. Not everything, of course, there's always something new to learn, but I try to be as detailed as possible so that you can go from beginner to intermediate very fast. In the second series, I'm going to focus on the Unity editor and everything that you need to know to work with Unity editor in 2022. We're going to talk about game objects, components, and tips and tricks and how to work with the Unity editor in specific. In the second series, you're also going to learn how to use code to steer elements in Unity, steer components or game objects, and generally we try to combine your C# knowledge with the Unity knowledge as well, whereas in the first course we're going to focus on specific C# knowledge and only programming C#, but not really combining that with the Unity editor. We're going to combine that in the second series. So whom would I recommend to watch these videos? These videos are for people who want to get serious with game development and who truly want to learn and understand C# and Unity. I wouldn't recommend you to watch the videos if you just want to learn something about C# and Unity for your university, for example, because for that purpose, the videos are just way too detailed. So how will this course be structured? If you look up Unity courses or C# courses on the internet, you will find that most of them are structured in a standard way. The way that most people learn to program in Unity and C# is learning by doing. They learn piece by piece while creating some games on the fly. I don't gonna do that. So how I gonna do it is first you're gonna learn all the important parts of C# without seeing much of the engine actually. Like I said in the first course, we're gonna focus on C# only and only cut on a bit of the engine, but not much actually. After you learned enough C# to start with serious C# programming, we're going to focus on the engine. And after that, we try to combine all the important parts of the engine and the code, both in code and in the Unity editor. So why would I take an approach that let you learn all the basics first? I mean, that sounds way more boring than the learning by doing approach, right? The first reason for that is simple and obvious. You gain a strong foundation on that you can build, and with that you can create serious games. The next two reasons are something that most beginners don't know, but at some point everyone will run into this problem. The biggest and most common problem for beginner game developers is actually constant refactoring. Why is that, you may ask? Because if you do Unity and C# by the learning by doing approach, you will learn lots more while you create your game, and at some point you will recognize that everything that you already did can be done much better, much more efficient, and maybe it won't even work like that in the final build. And all of that leads to one of the biggest problems for beginner game developers, and that is that beginner game developers tend to always throw away their projects and don't finish them, or to abandon their projects while they're working on them. And that's what I try to stop with my approach. Of course, my approach will be a bit more boring and a bit more time consuming in the beginning. And that's the point where you might ask yourself, why does he tries to advertise his approach and his video series to me if he says himself that it will be much more boring and it will take much more time in the beginning? And that's where I want to talk about the benefits of my approach. I can promise you, if you learn Unity and C# with my video series, you will have a much higher probability of not abandoning your projects all the time and not refactoring your code every 2 weeks, and definitely have a much stronger foundation and can start with serious game development right after watching my series. And in the end, this strong foundation and this direct head start for serious game development will save you much more time than you have invested in my YouTube series. Okay, so let's hop right into it. The first thing you want to do is download and install Unity Hub. After that, open Unity Hub and you will find yourself in this window. Now it's time to install your first editor. Click on Installs, Install Editor, and there you can see all the available editors. For beginners, I recommend to start with a long-term support version because it is much more stable and has much less bugs in comparison to the newer versions. Of course, when you get more advanced, you can also install a new version with all the fancy new features. Click on Install. For the start, you don't need to check any checkboxes in the install window because all those modules for Android or iOS build support or all the others you can install later. Just in case at any point in time you need one of these modules, I want to show you how to install them later. Click on the settings wheel, click on Add Modules, and here you can see you can install all of these modules afterwards. After that, it's time to create our first project. Click on Projects, and on the top right on New Project. Now it's time to name your project. I think I'm going to call this one YouTube. Select the location, and after that we need to select a template. I think I'm going to stick to the 3D core template for now. Click Create Project on the bottom right. The process for creating your project can take a while. After it's finished, you will find yourself in such a window like this. This is the Unity editor. I'm going to explain a bit how this works, but I'm going to dive into much more detail about this in our Unity editor series. For now, and for the C# series, I'm just going to focus on C# mainly. Over here you can see the project view. The project view works like any other folder-based file system on your computer. In case you close that at any point in time, do a right click, add tab, and click project. In case you want to close a tab, do a right click and click close tab. Okay, so in Unity we always work with scenes and game objects. This here is a scene, and the main camera and directional light are game objects. Every game object will have components. You can see them after you clicked on the game object on the right side in the inspector window. Every game object has a transform component. You can also add components to your game objects, but we will talk about this in much more detail in our Unity series. For now, it's just important that you memorize that we work with scenes. Sample scene in the project view is our scene that we are working in right now. Then we work with game objects, and we pull our scripts as components on the game objects. So our script is a component for the game object. Okay, so let's create a C# script. Do a right click, go to Create, C# script, and I'm gonna name this one YouTube. Now if we open it, we will see that it will open in Visual Studio Code. But I don't want it to open in Visual Studio Code. I want to work with Visual Studio, and I recommend you to do so as well, because Visual Studio has a much better syntax highlighting for beginners. To do that, please install the community version from Visual Studio on your computer. After that, go to Unity, go to Edit, Preferences, External Tools, and under External Editors, you can select Visual Studio. Now you can double-click your C# file, and it will open in Visual Studio. Okay, now I'm gonna delete everything in this file except the start method. I will not explain what all of this means for now. I will explain all about this in the later videos. In this video, I want to focus on the start method and on debug log. This is the start method. It is a predefined method by Unity. It will be executed once in the lifetime of a game object, and it will be called after the await method. It would be good if you memorize this infos for now. More you don't need to memorize now. Okay, due to the concept of my video series, we're gonna work a lot with the console. So it's important that we learn how to log something on the console. Okay, so let's write our first C# command. Basically, a command is just something that does something with code. Okay, debug log is a command that will log something on the console for us. It's important that you end every command with a semicolon. There are two different ways to log something. You can log either normal or you can log a warning. And then there's a third way, which is only meant for errors, and it's debug log error. With that, you will log an error when it's occurred. As you can see, I have put every bit of text that I wrote between double quotation marks. That's what we call a string in the programming world. It's important that you memorize that you always need to put double quotation marks around your text so you have a formally correct string. Okay, now we can save the script and go into the Unity editor. It will compile our scripts, and after that we need to put our script as a component on a game object. I will put our script on the main camera for now. Click the main camera in the scene view. After that, drag and drop your script over into the inspector where you can see the components of the main camera to add your script as a component to the main camera. Okay, now let's start our script by clicking on the start button on the top. And now you should click on the console on the bottom to see our logs. As you can see, we have 3 logs. We have one normal log, one warning, and one error. And what's really handy about the debug log function is that it always shows you where it has been called. As you can see down here, it has been called in the YouTube script, and we can even see the line behind that. If we double click here, it will open the script and the right line where it has been called. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope you learned something about Unity, the start function, and debug log. Remember to always open the console if you want to work with debug log. And over here you can click on clear to clear the console. That's it, I hope you like it, and I see you in the next video of this series. Welcome to the end of this video. Hit the subscribe button to stay updated. Also, if you need some high quality assets for your game or like our channel and want to support us, feel free to check out our assets at the Unity or Unreal Asset Store. You'll find the link to our store pages in the description. I hope you learned something new and see you next time.